Do you ever feel like you're just doing things on the fly in your business and you can't keep up and it's never ending? Like maybe there's stuff in the back of your mind that you would really love to work on and to do, but you never get there because you've got to go through the weeds and there's always these things that just feel incredibly urgent and things you've got to stay on top of, and it drains your energy. Or maybe you feel like you're sacrificing all of your extra time to give your clients the very best experience possible. And you just know there's got to be a better way. Well, there is, and if any of this feels like you, episode 45, Creating Rich Systems with Latoya Dixon-Smith, is for you. Latoya is a fellow creative here in my area, Greenville, South Carolina. It is so fun to have our first podcast guest who's actually local to me. She's a wedding photographer. She's a mom of a 6-year-old and a 2-month-old who makes her debut on the podcast as well. And she's also the owner of Systems for Photographers. I invited Latoya onto the podcast because I love how she shows up in her own business, at least what I can see on the outside. To me, she shows up with this perfect blend of automation, but also this beautiful presence and personality and humanity all in one. And all of it saves her time while providing a fantastic audience experience. I can only imagine how fantastic her client experience is. So she's going to share what systems are and how you can create them inside of your own business. Enjoy the story. I'll talk to you after. Hey you're listening to the Intentional Documentary Podcast. So glad to have you. Around here, I'm gushing over the stories behind the pictures that we freaking love of our own lives. You know, the ones we hold as high value and iconic, because this is where photography meets real life. I'm your host, Marie Moss, and I believe that the best way to approach your photography is through your lens, your way. Through insightful conversations with photographers, I'll explore preserving life with your camera and using what lights you up to grow your brand. Let's get started. Okay, Latoya, I am just ecstatic to have you on this podcast. I found your Instagram, I think in the fall, and I remember how I found you, which was by searching the hashtag Greenville Creatives. I was kind of wondering who else was in my little area, and I fell in love with your Instagram feed right away. I was just telling you before we hit record that it's like this perfect blend of just this value bomb after value bomb of information on all things systems, but then also there's enough humanity there to where I feel like you're still a person on the other side of that page. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Marie, for having me. I'm really glad to, get this time to sit and chat with you, especially, learning that we were in the same area was really cool, and seeing that you have this platform. So I'm just really grateful that you invited me along.
Thanks. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, who you help, and what you're doing right now.
Okay. So a little disclaimer, I'm nursing right now. So my husband and I, we welcomed our second child, baby girl Liana, back in December of 2018. And we also have a 6-year-old son. So just for anyone listening, if you hear some sounds in the background, that's just my daughter nursing. No big deal. But yes, I'm also a wedding photographer. My wedding brand is called One Union Studios, and we specialize in couples portraiture as well as weddings and elopements. And then, of course, Systems for Photographers is where I help photographers understand and organize their business back end, more particularly their CRMs, just to help them kind of manage the day-to-day. And streamline their business processes. So it's something that I really nerd out on, and I love to help other photographers with as well.
Yeah, I love that. Can you explain what a CRM is? I don't know that everybody listening will even know what that means.
Right. And thank you for asking, because that's something that sometimes I overlook that fact. But a CRM, it stands for Client Relationship Management, or client or customer relationship management. It's just a tool for you to kind of have a dashboard of your clients. So think about it as your hub of anytime, a client inquires with you, if you start a client project with them, you can manage everything from one sort of portal or dashboard. I use a CRM that allows me to, have my clients inquire. So you think about, if someone wants to contact you through a form, you can host forms there. You can send out contracts, invoices, all sorts of things with a CRM. It's just really a good way to kind of keep track of what you're doing instead of using a bunch of different things that can essentially do the same thing, but having it as an all-in-one just kind of helps alleviate the task of managing even more than what you can accomplish with just one single CRM.
Okay. Yeah, I've been seeing you sharing a lot about, and I don't even know if I'm going to say this right. Is it Dubsado? Dubsudo?
Yes, Dubsado. That's it.
Dubsado. Yeah. So that one, they clearly must be your favorite. You've been using them a while?
Yeah, I think I've been with Dubsado for a couple of years now. I actually did not start with Dubsado. So before, I would think I was using, PayPal to send invoices to clients. And
Okay.
then I realized that wasn't necessarily the most efficient way for me to do it. And then I'd heard about 17 Hats, which is where it was just the first CRM that I started using. 17 Hats, I think, is a little bit, it has a few integrations like with Fundy Designer Suite, which you can, design albums and things like that are more tailored and geared to photographers.
Mm-hmm.
So I was with 17 Hats for maybe like a year or so. And then I'd heard about Dubsado. And Dubsado has a free trial. So with the first 3 clients that you have in your dashboard, you can do business with them for free. Once you go to the next, the 4th client, then you can get into a paid subscription. So I decided with the subscription or with the free trial to just try it out. And I just fell in love with Dubsado, simply for the fact that it was a lot more user friendly, in my opinion, and it had the flexibility to customize things a lot more than I was able to do with 17 Hats.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just a really, I don't know, I like the design as well. So for any designers too, like design totally matters in how, your platforms look. But Dubsado was just really flexible for me, and I could see that I could grow into it as well, which was another selling point for me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm like that too. When if the system, if it feels a little bit, I don't even know the right word, but I guess just that user experience part of the website. What is it? I'm seeing this like in my head, but like the UI or AI,
Yeah, the
whatever.
user interface.
Yes, that's what it is. That to me, like that matters so much. And if it matters, I think to us using something, like it's for sure going to matter to your clients, the way that things look and feel as they're going through getting a contract from you or filling out a form or whatever the case may be. And it makes so much sense that it's an area that you want to pay attention to. Have you heard of the website Full Story?
I have not. What's Full Story?
Oh man, like you're probably going to spend a lot of time on here.
Okay.
So I'm in a business group called the Indie Business Insiders.
Okay.
It's hosted by Kyla Roma, who's my business strategist. And she, just one of the girls in there just suggested it to me. And what it is you put just a little piece of code onto your website, and it then tracks all of, it's the users, but it attracts every single interaction with your website, and you can like replay it like you're watching Netflix, but you're binging on what people are doing on your site. And
I could definitely spend some time on that.
yeah. And it's free. So, and it's so cool. I'm in the middle of a trial right now. So I just am getting to know it, but like there's heat maps in there and all that fun stuff. So you can see like what people are clicking on. It'll tell you where people are trying to click, but there's actually nothing there that's clickable. So it just gives you so much insight on how people are using your website. So why I brought that up. And what I'm curious about is how, like, I've seen you offer these things called whiteboard sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to know first, like, what is that? And then outside of, because I can see people listening to this and thinking, okay, my solution is I just need to go check out Dubsado and then I'm good to go. But
Yeah.
what kind of like work do people really need to look at to build like a strong, solid system?
Yes, that is a great point. And I always, tell folks, a CRM or any sort of tool at all is not going to be the answer to your problems. It may be something that we use to help, correct or to help minimize, you know, some time consuming processes that we have in our business, but it's not like a, a simple solution that's just going to fix all your problems. In fact, it could actually create more problems if you don't really, think about it from a really strategic way, or at least, trying to figure out how you can use it to the best that you're able to, the best way that you're able to. So whiteboard sessions from my company, Systems for Photographers, is really a time where we can sit one-on-one and go through what it is that you're doing in your business, and go through each process step by step, in order to figure out what's going to give your clients the best experience possible, what's going to save you the most amount of time. And in that time together, we determine, are there any things that you can either delegate or automate? And that's really where those time savings comes in. Whether you're using Dubsado, whether you're using any other sort of platform to help you conduct business, well, a whiteboard session is really just a time to just lay out the process step by step and just see, where is there opportunity for you to first and foremost improve the client experience. You don't want to make things too complicated for your clients. You want to make sure that what you're offering is very clear. And that's another reason why I love, a tool like Dubsado, is because I was able to, whereas I wasn't able to do before, include, photos and things like that to kind of tell the story of my business, tell the story of my brand. And I know we talked about documentary photographers running into the issue of not really being able to communicate exactly, what it is that they do and the value that it provides to someone looking for that type of photography. You can show that very easily in a CRM as you're presenting, your offers to your clients. And I know, not that I'm, not that I'm dismissing any other platforms, but Dubsado is one that I've just been able to, I've just grown to love even more. Not just the fact that they have a great user interface and things like that, but their team is also, been very supportive, and they have a great customer service. But going back to the whiteboard session, I find that a lot of my clients that are photographers that I've worked with, they're doing a lot of things on the fly, and they're doing a lot of things just from memory. And that's great. I'm a mom, so I know, um, being able to multitask is a great trait to have. Even though we don't do everything, 100%, we can do a lot of things, and accomplish a lot of things in a small amount of time. However, in business, you want to make sure that, you're giving your clients the best of you that you can, but that doesn't mean that you have to do everything. And that's the key, to try to figure out what is it that you can do. Where would you like to spend more of your time with your clients? Some people like, spending more one-on-one time in in-person meetings. Some people like being on the phone. Others, they don't like being on behind the emails as much. And so there are things that you can do with a system that you can automate, or at least, have something to where you can not spend as much time on, whether it's like a canned email or having forms already laid out and things of that nature. But with a whiteboard session, again, looking at things step by step at each individual process just kind of gives you a holistic view of what it is that you're doing and show you where you can add more value to your clients.
I love that you brought all of that up, because I think it's so easy to think system, and it feels like it's this thing that you have to hack to make your business be more like quote unquote what everybody else is doing. But it's not like that. It can be super tailored to yourself, like your personality and the things, like you said, things that you like to do, like getting on the phone for this one particular conversation versus automating that. Maybe you create a one-time video and you send that out instead of having to pick up the phone for that whatever conversation that needs to be had. I really love that. Is, like I said, I think that system sometimes feels like this thing that you need to hack, but it's not. It's more of this. It's an experience that you're creating.
Yeah, for sure.
I love
And it
that.
definitely doesn't have to be, robotic or stale. I think some people fear the word automation and systems and think that, oh man, clients are going to feel like I'm like a robot and they're not going to feel like it's a personal experience. And that's not true at all. It actually gives you the flexibility to create that experience however you'd like to.
Yeah.
Um, being as creatives, that's the beauty that we have. That's the advantage that we have in trying to figure out what works best for us. It doesn't have to be like everyone else's. And, with the whiteboard session, it's totally custom to the experience that you want to have with your clients. There's some people that I've worked with, they like to be as hands off as much as possible. And there are others who want to, engage a little more. And so whatever works for you, whatever you want your brand to convey, and how you want to do business, it's totally up to you and how you want that, how to reflect that.
Yeah, I love that. One area that I'm really curious about from you is measuring what's working and what's not. So, like, for example, it has been one of my own personal missions to, like, I've been going from like lead generation all the way through like the customer experience through my programs, and really just like paying attention to what people are paying attention to, what they're ignoring, where I could do better, where it seems like things are working seamlessly. But one area that I struggle with is like tracking that, like having like a place where I can look at that from a bird's eye view. I'm wondering if there are tools or strategies that that you'd suggest for something like that. Like if you've kind of got your system in place, now how do you manage it and make sure that it's working, and that or looking at where you can improve?
Yeah. So I'm gonna give Dipsada more praises here, but I love that they have a
Yeah.
feature that you can see your workflows at a glance, and it shows you where exactly in that process, almost kind of like a progress indicator, showing you how far along you are. So what I like to do is, if I notice that a workflow hasn't progressed, that just is an indicator for me to either go back and follow up, or if I've, added automated reminders inside of that workflow, I can kind of trigger those as well.
Okay.
Another tool that I have used before for project management is Trello. Um, I really love Trello, Asana. Those are other project management tools, but you can, in either of them, you can kind of set up, what you like to have your business workflows look like on a step-by-step basis. And it just takes you to go in to manage, where these clients are stopping or starting in the process, to see, what, like you said, what's working, what's not working. I used to do this when I was doing more commercial photography work for local businesses and brands.
Mm-hmm.
I would set up in Trello a dashboard, and I would say, okay, these are my prospects. I would have like a list of businesses in the prospects category. Then the next category, I would have, the first initial contact. So I was doing a little bit of cold calling and cold emailing.
Mm-hmm.
So then I would have that next step in that dashboard. So the initial contact. Then under those cards in Trello, I would put like a due date. So I would follow up maybe within 7 days, and Trello would send me a reminder to check up or to follow up on that lead to see if had they responded. If they responded, what was the response, and I could like leave little notes in there. And then just the next step in the dashboard would maybe be a follow-up call or a follow-up email, just to kind of move things along. And then I would also have another column for if if, they declined. So I would just have like for whatever I would anticipate, there being the next step to be a column. And I would just move the cards over to where, kind of what the action step was, or what the business had replied and said would be something that they'd be interested in, or what have you. But it was just another way for me to manage those without having to put them in my CRM Dubsado until they were an actual client. So if someone, I would recommend anyone who wants to try that out. Trello is totally free. I actually use it for both personal and business reasons, but it's totally free. And you can also, like I said, you can create kind of like a dashboard for yourself to kind of manage what's going on with what types of clients, so that you can, make sure that you're not leaving money on the table or opportunities on the table if you need to follow up with a client or follow up with a prospective client, and just see where you've left off in that process.
Oh man, that is so good. I never in a million years would have thought to use something like Trello to manage like my conversations prior to somebody becoming like a client. That's so good. It just brought back like these memories of when, so I haven't taken on photography clients in a few years, but I remember when I'd get these inquiries in, or if I wanted to reach out to somebody in a cold contact type of a way, I would put Post-it notes in my planner of follow up with this person. And then I'd have to try to remember, okay, why am I following up with them? And I'd go into like a folder in my inbox with where email conversations were. And it was so just not streamlined. And that is beautiful. I love that. So my last question on systems is, can you give us, like, you were already saying like some of your clients like fear like of being like too automated, too robotic. What are some specific ways that you can make automation and systems feel more like you, like a human, as far as using automation, but maintaining humanity, I guess?
Right. So you actually mentioned one, you can use video, you can use audio and video if you still want to have your clients kind of see you and kind of get your vibe, get your presence without actually, meeting them in person. Or if you want to meet them in person, that's something too. I would say, don't feel like incorporating systems means that you have to not be present or not be as present as you want to be. It's designing a system is there for you to make it look and feel how you want. Now you'll find that, as you grow, which, a lot of people, that is a goal of them in business, is to grow, that you will either run out of time or run out of resources. So you need to at least, you'll find that you'll want to delegate or automate, at least somewhere in that process. But you can use things like video. One tool that I use is Loom. So Loom is, for screen sharing, you can also record video on Loom. I have a photographer friend that anytime a client sends or submits an inquiry form, he has a video that pops up that welcomes them to his business, introduces himself, a little bit about what he does, and he tells them, okay, thanks for filling out this form. In a couple of days you'll receive an email, or maybe they have received an email that tells them the next steps. So again, that's a way for him to kind of get in front of the client without necessarily meeting them right then and there. Things like Zoom, where you can conduct virtual meetings, is helpful, especially if you have a lot of clients who are out of town. There's just, with technology, there's like an endless number of ways that you can still maintain your humanity, but use and leverage these tools in order to do business a lot more easily, in order to get in front of more people. Because there's, it's like, for me, I'm a solopreneur. There's only one of me in my business right now, and I have contractors for other things, but I want to maximize the time that I have in my business. But also one of the goals for me and my business is to support and sustain my family. So I don't want to be working, so hard maintain this household and not be able to spend time with my family. That would just defeat the purpose. So I know that at some point I'm going to have to employ these tools in order for me to get the desired end result, which is to in order to spend more time with my family. So just kind of thinking a little bit outside of the box and thinking, okay, what is it that you would really, what is the desired goal that you want your clients to have? Is it that you want them to learn more about you and learn more about the look and the feel and the experience that you want them to have with you? Then, of course, yeah, use things like photos and video to enhance that experience. Maybe an email is not going to cut it, but maybe a video would. Um, or even just different checkpoints or check-ins that you can have automate with your clients that would prompt a one-on-one conversation. But again, it still keeps that sense of this is a person that you're doing business with, not a robot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so good. And there's a few things in there that I really liked. I loved that you were talking about, like, you want this business to support your family. I think that's so important to pay attention to what you're doing so that you can make sure you're not just in motion, but you are actually moving towards results. Like, there's such a huge difference there. And I was also just thinking too, like, with all these opportunities that we have to really provide like a personal experience, even like with automation. I think another thing that, like, those of you listening could really like think through too is like, and I'm curious what your thoughts are too, Latoya, on paying like really close attention to where your leads are in terms of how warm they are when they first interact with you. Like your Latoya's photographer friend who has the video that pops up when they fill out the form. Like, I think that could be so powerful for those of us. I know so many people have said like they get these inquiries that just feel like they're rate shopping
Mm-hmm.
and they're not aligned with, yes, I want this story documented. Like, there's a huge difference in the type of inquiries. And I think that like really paying attention up front to not just in the client experience, and creating a system there could be super powerful.
Yeah, and I find for me, at least, Marie, that you talk about paying attention to those inquiries. I have a question in my form, my lead capture form of how did you hear about me or where did you find me, something like that. And I find that that's really a huge indicator of me of kind of the approach that I need to take with that particular prospect. Because
Yeah.
if it's someone who found me on my website, I feel like they're a little bit more informed about what I do and kind of how I do things, as opposed to someone who may have heard about me through a friend.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, if you get a referral from either someone you've done business with before, you've worked with before, or someone who's just recommended you, that's usually when I get the folks who are kind of rate shopping and wanting to see compare prices, really. And that's when I know that I have to put in a little bit more work on the front end to express and convey the value of what I offer beyond the price point, as opposed to someone who's kind of done a little bit more research and come to me from my website, because they've probably browsed around a little bit and they've kind of seen my work. And I also have starting prices listed there too, to where they understand after they've reached out to me that at least we there is a little bit of an understanding of what the budget that they're prepared to spend is going to be.
Yeah, man, that question is gold when you really explain like how you can use that. How did you hear from me? Seriously. All right. So I'm going to switch topics just a little bit. I'm curious because, like you said, you just had a baby and you've got a 6-year old, and you are, it seems like, on it when it comes to consistency with at least what I see on your Instagram. I'm curious, how are you managing your energy to keep up with all of this? And um, how are you I'm wondering, like, do you have a system? Like, do you know what you're going to post about, or in advance, or do you plan that out, or are you kind of like doing things on the fly? Like, as far as like that goes, like getting in front of your audience consistently, how are you doing all that?
Well, that that is the golden question. And I would say it's definitely changed since having my daughter. Before it was a little bit, everything was a little bit more planned out. I would schedule posts in advance, sometimes 3 months in advance, and that would really save me a lot of time. But now that she's here, time is a little bit more focused on her as opposed to scheduling things on social media and things like that. It's definitely helpful when I am able to do that though. But I also have to schedule in time to engage because I think it's even more important to engage and to be giving value as it is to just to be on social media just for the sake of posting. You want to
Yeah.
make sure that your clients are getting what they need from you, that you stay top of mind, that if there are any questions that people have, that you're addressing them, and even asking questions to get more questions to see where else can you fill in those gaps to where clients may need more information from you. And that's usually like an indicator of what are the content that I would likely be posting, um, or where I'm spending more of my time to get in front of the audience. So I would say how things have changed for me since having my daughter. I take more of a an approach of um, inspired action. So what I
Hmm.
mean by that is, if I notice something that needs to be addressed, or if I notice that there is a gap that needs to be filled, that is really what incites or triggers me to make a new post, or go on social media to make a comment, or share something with my audience, as opposed to just trying to line up a whole bunch of topics and just throw it out there to see if it sticks. um it's just been a lot more helpful, and I think people, and I find it to be a lot more relevant to folks whenever it does come from a place that I just feel it. I feel that it's something that people need. And I'm not saying this from, I don't have like these visions of, oh yeah, this is going to be helpful for someone. I'm just very observant. I'll just put it
Hmm.
that way. You can look through your feeds and see, what are the questions that people are asking? What do people need? And that sometimes that just sparks like an idea in your head. And I think because it comes from a place of inspired motion or inspired action, I think people resonate with it a lot more. So
Yeah.
that's something I've been trying to do, be conscious of, instead of just for the sake of putting something out there that I'm passionate about. Because I think people really are attracted to that sort of energy. You can show with your words, through your images, of course, that creativity, that passion. People really are attracted to that, and so I found I'm a lot more successful in business when I do that. But also, I'm not dismissing the fact that having a schedule and having a process for being present whenever your time is a little bit more limited than it was before is super valuable. I think it's key, it's crucial. So on that end of it, I would say that finding some time to batch content. So like for me, I do a lot of I like Instagram. I work on my blog, and then of course I'm starting a YouTube channel. So for any of those, I would have to spend some time to batch out that content. So I usually start with a blog post. That's really where that's just going to be the content that's going to stick around the longest, that and on YouTube. But I start with the blog post just because I think I'm a better, I think I can communicate things better when I write them down first. So I start there. And then from there, sometimes I can create, social media posts. And then from there, I can kind of create a script for my YouTube videos. But the whole goal is to just set aside some time to just do it all at one time. So if I know for the month of March, I want to focus on this topic, then I'll spend like a weekend to kind of outline those topics, write the blog posts, have them scheduled on social media, or at least, know that for this week, this is the topic that I want to focus on. So if I'm going to post, 2 to 3 images or 2 to 3 posts this week, that this is going to be the topic that I'm going to focus on. And then, another weekend or another week, I will set aside some time to record the video. Now, consistency is the hardest part, I would say, because like I said, with a baby, you're guaranteed the time, but you're not guaranteed like the silence, and the conditions are not going to be the same every single time. Like right now, I think it's the fact that I'm talking so much that she's so quiet right now. So it just kind of works out for me right now. But then, like I said, on the other end of it, it's just being consistent and going forward and putting it out there. I would say is the hardest part. So when you have tools at your disposal, like for scheduling, social media scheduling, I use Planoly.
Okay.
And sometimes I use, Instagram to, if there's like a post that I need to come back to, it allows you to save a draft. But for things that are scheduled out more like a week or months out in advance, I use Planoly in order to schedule things. So I would say for me, it's combined with the inspired action and a little bit of the scheduling as well. But in order for me to do that scheduling, I think it's most effective when I batch out that content instead of trying to, be working on it constantly. That's really where you'll see you can save a lot of time.
Yeah. I love that you are doing a blend of the inspired action, real time posting, and batching. And I think that what's so important to know about batching is that it's not just this rigid sit down and batch out a bunch of work, but usually so I learned from Susan Ferraro that she has drilled it into me that it is our job to manage our energy. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that it can be really tough to sit down and be like, all right, now I need to batch out a whole bunch of work. But I think that if you manage your energy just right and what you need to do to get your energy up there, then even when you're batching, it can come from a place of inspired action. You're just not sharing it in real time.
Oh,
It's
yes.
to drip out. So, I love all of that. All right, last question, I promise. And I was going to ask, was the baby stolen? I haven't heard her. So that's so awesome that she must be out, milk drunk out, or is she awake?
I think she's awake. I can't really see her face right now. But
Okay, gotcha.
she's being so quiet. I don't want to move her.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So my last question is, you submitted your iconic photo, which is this beautiful photograph of your son, which those of you listening, you can see it in the show notes. And Latoya, I'm curious, tell me everything about this photo, the backstory. You made this picture, right?
I did.
Yeah.
So I took that photo of my son recently. And I love it. One, because my son doesn't really allow me to take a lot of photos of him. I know being a photographer's kid is kind of hard. You always have that camera constantly, in your face. But I, respected his wishes and not taken so many photos as I would like. But I do have to get in, those mommy images here and there. And he gets that from my husband. I swear, I hope my daughter is going to be different in that she likes the camera, because those two, man, they are a piece of work. The conditions have to be just right. The universe has to, all be, the axes have to be just right for me to get a photo of those two. But on this particular day, I think it was President's Day, actually, my son was home from school. He's in first grade, so he was home from school that day. And it was a nice warm day here in South Carolina, so we were able to get out and go for a walk. And so we took my daughter as well. So the two of them, it was just a good time. It's just a great day for the three of us to just kind of get out of the house and just get some fresh air, and just go for a walk together. Uh, I'm learning, as a mom of two now, that it's so important for me to spend some quality time with each of them individually. With my daughter, I get it anyway because she's nursing. So she's just really close to me, at least at this stage in her infancy. And my son, I'm having to, be more intentional about the time that I spend with him. And it's usually, when he comes home from school and after he's finished his homework, and my husband and I will kind of trade off. So my husband will pick him up from school, they'll get home, and then he will get the baby, and then I will spend some time with my son. So it's just been really kind of like a delicate time of making sure that, each of them has their time with both parents. So
Yeah.
again, going back to that day, my daughter was asleep, so we still had her in the stroller, and I had bought this backdrop system. It's just kind of like a roll up backdrop holder thingy. I don't know what the correct term for it is, but it's in our garage, and I haven't used it in forever. So when we got back from the walk, I had him in the garage. It was literally just the natural light coming through the garage. So he's looking to his left, our right, towards the light. And my son has this thing where he's always telling me, Mom, I'm super strong. I have these big muscles. So I'm always telling him to show me his muscles. So he's shirtless in the photo, and he has on his favorite Superman hat. And he's just looking out at the light. And for me, I just love this photo because it just reminds me, I guess it's just kind of the typical mom story of, oh my gosh, my baby is growing up so fast. But I can just see the maturity in his eyes, in his posture, even the way he dresses, how he talks. And this photo just kind of reminds me of all those things that, I've come to know and love about my 6-year-old. My daughter kind of gives me that the baby feels all over again that he used to give me, and it's kind of like seeing her and then looking at him. It's really surreal. Like I always tell people, I cannot believe I have 2 children right now, and it's crazy too because they look so much alike. My daughter looks like my son when he was a baby. So it's like, wow, starting all over again from scratch, but with a girl this time. So that photo for me just really symbolizes just the growth and maturity of my son. And I'm just excited for him because he's his own little person. And I can just see that, especially through this photo too.
Yeah, this age is so fun. I have to say, this is my daughter. She turned 7 at the end of October. She's a Halloween baby. And yeah, it's so fun. Like their personalities at this age are just like they are really coming alive. And it's funny because when she was like 5, I thought, oh, I'm seeing her personality, but it just continues to get richer. So I totally hear what you're saying here, and I can see looking at this photo how it can stir all of that up, and that's what I just love about photography. How you might see something on the surface. I see this sweet boy looking to his right, well, his left, my right, and, now I know he's looking out of the window. But it's just so cool how you can see like 1,000 more layers into this than I ever could because it's so personal to you. And these are the kind of photos we love to talk about. So thank you so much, Latoya, for being on here. Can you give everybody all your links at where they can find you?
Sure. And Marie, thank you so much for inviting me again to be on the podcast. It's really an honor to be able to, speak with other passionate photographers and also encouraging others to share their stories in a more genuine way. But yes, you can definitely find me online. I love Instagram. Marie mentioned that I blend both personal and business there at Latoya Dixon-Smith. That's my Instagram handle. You can also find me on our group on Facebook, Systems for Photographers Community, as well as the Facebook page, Systems for Photographers. You can just simply look for it. But yeah, I really enjoy, speaking with other folks and kind of learning a little bit more about what they're doing in their business and and seeing how, we can create, something that allows them to get more time back into whatever it is that you want to do, and having systems be the way to do that.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it like the longest story in the book of hearing photographers say that they got into this to be a photographer, but they spend more time on just about everything else?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Latoya.
All right. Have a great day, Marie.
You too. Welcome back, friend. Wasn't that so good? I haven't taken on clients in a few years, and even I got a zillion ideas out of speaking with Latoya, and I hope that you did too. I'm seriously going to implement some of this stuff that we've talked about for Fearless and Framed in my programs that I offer. So I titled this episode Creating Rich Systems because after speaking with Latoya, I realized this episode isn't just about point blank creating systems for your workflow. I don't know about you, but my key takeaway here is that when it comes to systems, it's important to pay attention to how you want your system to feel. If you only focus on the logistics, the things that check a box for time savers or customer experience, you may create a valid step or system or process inside of your business, but it can still be too automated or too giving of your time. So it's just important to slow down and pay attention to how it all feels and how it all flows together from both perspectives, your clients as well as your own. So I've got 3 gut check questions for you this week. Number 1, where do you feel like you're most scrambling in your business? Number 2, where are opportunities slipping through the cracks? Man, I loved what Latoya said about how she used Trello to manage her conversations with prospective clients. I can't tell you how many times I get these conversations going in my inbox that I want to follow up with, but I've not really had like a way to do that. And since I don't take on one-on-one clients, for example, it's easy for me to stay on top of things when it comes to people who are in my programs, because usually they're talking to me either in a Facebook group or it's just a little bit different. But for these conversations who come in just from my audience, sometimes I want to follow up with people and I haven't had a way to do that. So I think this would be a really great solution for myself. So I wanted to reflect back to you that in those areas that you feel like you're kind of scrambling or that opportunities are slipping through the cracks, like it's just important to identify those things. And then maybe you got to put it on the shelf for later. Like I get that, but look for a solution. And if you can't find one on your own, ask for help from someone like Latoya. And then my third question is, what cues can you create throughout your systems that provide insight? So another thing that I loved was how Latoya uses the "How did you hear about me" form answers in her intake form. Like that was gold to me. So what other cues similar to that can you create throughout your own systems to continue to learn about the person on the other side of your system? So visit the show notes from today's episode with all the links mentioned in the show notes at fearlessandframed.com/045. And if you've got a sec and you haven't already, please leave a rating and review in iTunes. I would really appreciate it. And why should you do that? Well, it's just a good signal to me about the content that you like to hear about, and it gives me a high five, and sometimes I need that too. So until next time, have a wonderful week. I'll talk to you soon.